Despite up to 8 women may have been killed by Tony Costa over a 3-year period, he was found guilty in 1969 of the savage murder and dismemberment of Patricia Walsh and Marian Vysotsky. Hello viewers, in this video I will tell the chilling true story of Cape Cod serial killer Tony Costa. So let's get started the video. Police in Truro, Massachusetts discovered the nearly unrecognizable remains of 4 ladies after they dug up their graves in 1969. Tony Costa, who eventually gained notoriety as the Cape Cod vampire, was their victim. When Patricia Walsh and Marian Vysotsky, 2 of the women, unexpectedly disappeared in January while visiting the nearby Provincetown. They were last seen with Costa, though they had also been linked to Costa. The other 2 had gone missing since the previous year. Police did not believe that the ladies were Costa's initial victims, despite the fact that the 4 murders were incredibly horrific. Although he was only found guilty in connection with the murders of Walsh and Vysotsky, it is possible that he killed up to 8 women between 1966 and 1969. Although Costa was serving a life sentence in jail when he committed murder in 1974, a full list of his victims will never be discovered, but due to his brutality of his reported killings, he is recognized as America's very own Jack the Ripper. The disturbing early years of the vampire on Cape Cod. On August 2, 1944, Tony Charles Tony Costa was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. A passage from Hunting Humans, an encyclopedia of modern serial killers on Murderpedia, states that he was apprehended at the age of 17 for his first horrific crime. In November 1961, he broke into the residence of a neighbor late at night. The teenage girl screamed and ran away as soon as she realized Costa was standing over her. But 3 days later, he came back. Costa attempted to drag the girl down the building stairs. Costa was arrested by neighbors after they interfered, and he was found guilty of assault and burglary. He was given 3 years of prison and a 1-year suspended sentence. At the age of 18, Costa wed a teenage girl and became the father of 3 kids. His marriage collapsed over time, reportedly as a result of drug abuse and violence. Costa ended up with his wife by the middle of the 1960s and was dating other women, several of whom had vanished for no apparent reason. The mysterious vanishments in contact with Tony Costa. According to the lineup, Tony Costa picked up Bonnie Williams and Diane Fedoroff in 1966 and offered to drive them to Pennsylvania. While he was traveling to California, they are thought to have been Costa's first victims because they were never seen again. The same day Costa was leaving to return to Massachusetts, 2 years later, his girlfriend in California, Barbara Spalding, disappeared. Likewise, she vanished from sight. When Sydney Monzon, aged 18, vanished in May 1968 in Provincetown, she was last seen getting into a car with Tony Costa. Susan Perry, Costa's new girlfriend, also disappeared that September. Costa responded to friends' inquiries about where she was by saying she had gone to Mexico. During this same period, Tony Costa and his wife got divorced. He then met Christine Gallant, another woman, and spent a brief period of time in jail for not paying child support. Gallant and Costa were both heavy drug users and part of the 1960s hippie community. After a barbiturate overdose in November 1968, Gallant was discovered dead in her bathtub. Eventually, on January 24, 1969, Patricia Walsh and Marian Vysotsky left for a weekend vacation to Cape Cod and checked into a guest home in Provincetown. Walsh's light blue Volkswagen had carried the women, who were 23 years old, all the way from Rhode Island. Tony Costa, a young local man who was also living in the house, was introduced to them by their landlady upon check-in. The vanishing of Marian Vysotsky and Patricia Walsh. According to court documents, Walsh and Vysotsky's landlady found a message pinned to their bedroom door. The morning after they arrived in Cape Cod, it had the name Tony, and said, "Could you possibly give me a ride to Truro early in the morning?" Costa and the 2 women were seen by a witness the same afternoon in a light-colored Volkswagen. When it was last seen, the car was moving toward Truro. Later that day, both women had an appointment in Provincetown, but they did not show up. Another message was found by the landlady on Walsh and Visaki's room door the next day. "We're going out." It said, "I appreciate all of your kindness," using the same kind of paper as the note from the day before. It was signed Mary Ann and Pat. From their room, the women's things were also missing. However, after spending the weekend in Cape Cod, Walsh and Vysotsky failed to reach back home. Authorities were contacted immediately by their family, and an investigation started immediately. Walsh's Volkswagen was discovered parked close to Pine Grove Cemetery in Truro in a rural location on February 2, 1969. Costa drove to Boston later that same day, even though he tried to hide his crimes. Authorities now knew where to go for evidence. The depraved crimes of the Cape Cod vampire. When an officer was patrolling the woods behind Pine Grove Cemetery on February 8, 1969, he found a footprint on the soil. He dug around and discovered a bag filled with severed body parts, the 8 portions that made up. The female corpse belonged to Susan Perry, who had gone to Mexico 5 months before, but it didn't belong to Walsh or Vysotsky. Investigators questioned Costa over Walsh and Visaki's disappearance. At roughly the same time, he answered questions incorrectly, and soon he was running about attempting to hide. A telegram for Costa was delivered at his mother's Provincetown home on March 3. It said, "What happened? We waited as planned. Is everything going well? We are going to meet as discussed. The city of New York. With love, Pat and Mary Ann." Investigators discovered that Costa had access to a New York City phone line from which the telegram had originated. On March 5, while conducting further searches in the Truro woods where Costa had been reported to have a large marijuana garden, police discovered further remains: Mary Ann Vysoki's skull and body. Patricia Walsh's body, with her waist severed in half, was found in a nearby cemetery, peeling her skin from her chest, in a fashion like a sweater, so that it was attached about the shoulders, was how she described it. The wounded corpse of Sidney Monzon, an 18-year-old, who had been missing for almost a year, was beneath Walsh. The nickname Cape Cod Vampire was given to Costa because it was reported that some of the deceased showed bite marks. Walsh and Vysotsky died, according to a coroner, from gunshot wounds to their heads and necks. It was later determined that .22 caliber handgun discovered nearby was Costa's weapon. While doing research for his book Helltown, Casey Sherman, a true crime writer about Costa, looked at pictures from the scene. These women were not just murdered, they were brutalized. He eventually described, they appeared as though a great white shark, not a predator of humans, had attacked them. Furthermore, he also called Costa the most vicious serial killer since Jack the Ripper. Tony Costa's death and imprisonment. Costa was given a life sentence on May 29, 1970, for the killings of Patricia Walsh and Mary Ann Vysotsky. Costa claimed he was innocent during his trial, even in spite of numerous proof to the opposite. Kurt Vonnegut wrote about the women's deaths in a 1969 Story for Life magazine, stating that Costa told police, "There's an insane person who's got loose out there," even after his arrest. Costa wrote a book titled Resurrection. While inside, that goes into great depth about the killings. He said that Walsh and Vysoki's deaths were caused by a friend called Carl. In that statement, at the age of 29, Tony Costa was discovered dead in his prison cell on May 12, 1974. His body was found hanging from the upper bars of his cell by a leather belt by a prison officer on rounds. The official cause of Costa's death was given as homicide by asphyxiation by tying. The Cape Cod vampire ended his own life, taking with it the knowledge of the precise number of women he had murdered. Friends, this was the chilling true story of Cape Cod serial killer Tony Costa, who killed women brutally. Viewers, what you can say about him, please tell me in the comment section. Friends, if you like this video, please like the video and subscribe my channel for more amazing videos, and do not forget to press the bell icon. Take care of yourself, and I meet you in a new video.